bar of the Prince of Wales Hotel for the launch of Anne Witherall's book called Fly. It's a Friday night, and I just wanted to ask Gary Gray, who was one of the first musicians in the Melbourne scene to play punk and alternative music in his band, The Negatives, and then in the Sacred Cowboys. What was the late 70s and the early 80s hardcore punk scene and music scene like for you here in Melbourne, Gary? Just tell us a little bit about your memories of the 80s punk scene, I guess, in St Kilda.
I'll rewind to what you said first in the 70s. We didn't have, categories of music. My first band was called Judas Iscariot and the Traitors. That was 1974, and I remember 73 Raw Power came out. We did a cover of Shake Appeal in 74.
Yeah, right.
So we kept writing songs and got out and started playing, and got signed to Suicide Records, and they told us then that we were punks. So the category kind of wasn't there when we started playing, and went through a couple of bands. I was in the Reels with a guy named Ollie Olsen, and later the Negatives with Chris Walsh, Mick Holmes. Grew up with Tracy Pugh and, friends with all those guys back in the late 70s. By the time the 80s came along, I was in the Sacred Cowboys. I guess this may be, treason and all the rest. We never really were punks. We were called punks because there was no other category for us.
Punk was sort of like a industry kind of journalist sort of tag on the music that you guys and the Birthday Party and even Lime Spiders and Hard-Ons were doing. But yeah, you didn't, that first generation, you just played rock and roll or just music, but you didn't really... I've known you for back in those days too. You never really categorised yourself as a punk with a mohawk, did you?
No, I thought all that was fine, but we were always kind of against movements like fashion. We cut our hair to simply distinguish ourselves from the industry, and Matt Lake and 12-pound toothbrush and guys with really long hair. And then when everyone got short hair, what can you do then, So... it was always very much around fashion, which I think's great because I think it looks great, and I think a lot of the post-punk, it sounds great when you go back and hear it now. I think it's it's a fine part of music. I was more driven by things like Alan Vega, Suicide.
Yeah.
Those type of groups.
I remember seeing the Sacred Cowboys here at the Prince of Wales Hotel in the very early 80s, and you were playing in the room upstairs, and there was only about 100 or 150 people watching you, and you were going right off, and two policemen came into the front door of the room and had one look at what was going on stage and just curtailed it out the other door. They didn't really want to hang around. They just thought it was too over the top. That's like stuff that happened in this legendary pub back in the 80s in Melbourne's music scene, hey?
Look, absolutely, and it's always preferable when the constabulary leave the room rather than stay around and pay too much attention to you later on. I think, those days our music was the principle was to create a wall of sound and distortion. Basically, was like a five-piece band. How do you do this, and how do you play one note? So when you're doing a song like Rocket USA, how do you just play one note, and where do you take it? And, minimalism, I think, was the link between what we were doing and other types of punk. And I think the intention to get out, do something to challenge the status quo in music, this is what punk was doing. This is what any group with individuality is striving to do, is to really push the limits. And
you wrote some really great original songs on the Is Nothing Sacred and Nailed to the Cross and the first EP, and you were influenced by Suicide, but I thought it was quite interesting that you also covered a Bob Dylan song on the other hand, which, back in those days, punks probably hated Bob Dylan, but, you seem to do this Dylan cover, and I think a Beatles cover as well, I'm the Walrus from memory, which is interesting.
The guys were terrified. I told them, got them back after a gig at Caulfield Institute and said, hey, I think, this is the next song I want to do. It was I Am the Walrus. And when I went to find the EP in the shops, what happened was that I couldn't find it. And it was Greville Records, and I went up and said, Andrew, where's the record? And he's going, oh, you're in Swamp Rock.
Oh.
So, yet again, a category's invented and you sort of slot it into it, and that's where it goes. But yeah, the Wall of Sound, what was it called at the time? The machine hum of the ultimate destruction.
Yeah, right.
You got reviews like that. I guess that's what it was. There's the Negatives record, Dumb World.
Yeah, that all came out, yeah.
That covers from 1974 to 1978.
Yeah, I never saw them, but they were an early Melbourne punk band, hey, really. One of the first, I guess, Melbourne punk bands, Ollie Olsen, and they were around the same time as the Young Charlatans and all that stuff.
And the Negatives had Mick Holmes and Chris Walsh. The 80s scene, things really diversified. It was a great time for music in Australia.
Splintered off, yeah. There's all different subgenres and that,
The great thing about playing a gig, you do a gig, there'd be the, post-punk, there'd be guys that were sort of doing what we were doing, and you had like people coming to the gigs, you had writers, filmmakers, painters. It was a great time to play because music pulled all these creative people together. So it was a great moment.
All right, well, thanks very much, Gary Gray, one of the original people in the Negatives. Thanks very much for having a chat.
Thank you, Phil. I'll see you soon.
Okay, cool.
They're digging a Chinese ditch down there.